Welcome to today's First Chesapeake Chat session. I'm Emma Hollencheck, a First Chesapeake alumna, and I'm here to introduce the First Chesapeake Chat, sponsored by Newport News Shipbuilding. I would like to thank this session's sponsor, Newport News Shipbuilding, for making this chat possible. Just some housekeeping. We will let the speakers present and then open up for discussion questions later on if there is time. But feel free to put questions in the comments throughout the chat, and we will try to get to them all. The session today is Cool Jobs, Haptics and Medical Robotics at Johns Hopkins University, presented by Naveed Riaziat, a PhD student at Johns Hopkins. And now I'll pass it over to Naveed to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks for the introduction, Emma. Yeah, so I'm Naveed. I'm a current PhD student at Johns Hopkins, and I was a class of 2016 for my high school. So I did robotics from 2012 to 2016. And yeah, I can get started with the story if that works for you, Emma.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So yeah, I joined robotics probably a lot like a lot of you to an FTC team first. And it was the first year FTC team, and I kind of joined with the intention of just driving the robot. I was like, these things look cool. I want to be on the field. I want to be playing the game. And it was kind of like a video game. And little did I know I'd get really hooked on the mechanical engineering aspect of it. So I spent that first year with a bunch of freshmen developing this team for the first time. And we got excited and had this FTC team as part of a bigger robotics structure at my high school. We did really well. We competed at some of the competitions in the area and graduated on to the FRC team the following year. So I joined FRC from that and did FRC for the remaining 3 years. Let's see. So that gave me a couple robots, but I'll just share. I think I can share my screen. My final robot that we made. Let's see if this works out. Oh no, it's not going to let me share unless I quit Chrome. Okay, so we'll just live without it. So basically, we built our robot final year, did some good competing, like a lot of you guys will experience or are experiencing. And that got me excited to apply for an engineering school. So I decided I was going to go and apply for mechanical engineering. And I really wanted to find a major that was based in the engineering, but would prepare me to do robotics in the industry. And so I ended up going to Purdue University in Indiana. And actually, that was quite a change for me because my team is out in San Francisco Bay Area. So moved out to Indiana, which was a little bit different, to go to Purdue, and did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And I didn't really know what to expect, but what I got during my undergrad was a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted to explore. So I kind of tailored this undergraduate experience towards robotics, took a lot of classes in design and whatnot, and had some really good internships. And so from the get-go, I think that was one of the biggest things that really excited me about college, was getting to work over the summers and see what the industry was like. So I ended up doing some internships and got inspired to do undergraduate research through some of my coworkers. And for the last 2 years of my undergrad, I did undergraduate research in a robotics lab. And then I applied my junior year to Intuitive Surgical, which is a robotics company that makes medical devices and a robotic surgical system to do minimally invasive surgery and basically try to make the surgical experience better for patients and less invasive and less painful and just generally a better experience for everyone. And so I felt like they were doing really cool work. I applied to intern with them, and I was lucky enough to get an internship with them in the advanced product development team, in no small part due to the fact that they were one of our sponsors for my robotics team. So that ended up being a huge benefit to my career. And I worked for them, and I interned for them for 1 summer, worked on some stuff I can't tell anyone about, but needless to say, it was really exciting. Exciting enough that I came back for a second year and did my internship there last summer as well. And they were probably the biggest reason that I ended up pursuing my graduate degree. I kind of had the feeling that I wanted to do a graduate degree, but I didn't know exactly what it would look like, whether it be a master's or whether I would be continuing in mechanical engineering. And I met some really, really fantastic engineers, some great coworkers there, and they had done their PhDs and they had done their work. And yeah, they basically were like, well, you could come work here, but if you really want to, you can. It wouldn't be awful to do your PhD there. So got me excited to do that. Applied to a couple schools, and Johns Hopkins thankfully has this wonderful lab called the Haptics and Medical Robotics Lab. So I think the medical robotics part's kind of self-explanatory, but haptics I think is a really cool field, and a lot of my research is in the field of haptics. And for those of you that haven't heard that term, maybe haptics is the study of touch and sensation and interaction. So what we do is we talk about, how can you interact with a robot and feel like you are the robot? Can you feel the forces at your hands? Can you feel what it feels like to, in the case of the Da Vinci robot, for example, do surgery, even though now you're behind this remote control. And so there's lots of research to be done there. And I met with the advisor or of the investigator of the lab. His name's Professor Jeremy Brown, and he's my advisor now. And he's a really great guy, really asking the right questions and doing some really great work in his lab. So I was lucky enough to get admitted, and now this is the end of my first semester. I'm loving it so far. And so I have a bunch of media prepared, but unfortunately I can't really share it without quitting Chrome, unfortunately. So we can come back to that later, but that's the short of it.
Wow, that's incredible. So I guess let's see. For questions, I have. How has I feel like it's probably one you've heard a lot recently, but how has COVID been affecting your work at Johns Hopkins?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a first year, it's kind of been an interesting experience compared to what I thought it would be. Hopkins doesn't do in-person classes as is, so all my classes have been online. But thankfully, some of the research is allowed because we have like a private lab space, so we can make sure that there's only one person in at a time and stuff like that. So that has been okay, but it's been a little bit difficult. Thankfully, there's a boat of freshmen, or we're not freshmen, but boat of first years doing the same thing with me. So I've gotten used to the online school thing, and I've gotten to go into the lab a couple of times and work. So I'm really excited to get to meet some of my peers in person and work with them on hands-on things as opposed to kind of the more virtual stuff. But all said and done, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to be doing something right now at all. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely understand. I started my first year of college, so in the same boat of learning how to do everything online. What would you say has been the thing that the biggest thing you took from first that has helped you more on the research side of things, I think?
Yeah, definitely. I think, assuming that we have a lot of current first students and alumni on, what you guys probably experience a lot is things not working. And I think that's really the crux of research, is that you're going to have so many ideas. And in a build season, you can only try so many of those, but research is really just that continuation of trying ideas and ideas that you have that no one's had before. And I think in a research environment, you got to be really ready to fail and build off of that failure. And I think in robotics, everyone's going to experience like an idea that they had that doesn't really work the way they think it does. But to be a successful student and to have like a good season, you have to kind of salvage that. And I think that's a skill that a lot of researchers use a lot. I'll build off of that a little bit and say the students that I see come out of high school the most prepared to build things and like really test stuff are typically the first students that have had like experience making things, manufacturing things, CADing things. That like really set me up to be a researcher and just a good student at my undergrad too, from the get-go. So I think having kind of like done things more than just like solved a physics problem or solve something on paper and like seen it break and like learn those kinds of like niche like details really prepared me for research, I think.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I guess my next question would be, what was something that you wish you would have known while you were in first that you think could help prepare you better for what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, there's a lot of mechanical engineering, like as a field, that not everyone is really exposed to. And I think when you're in first, a lot of times the like most effective strategy is just to do the things that are proven in first. And I'm not saying don't do that, but there are, there's techniques and there's tactics that we use because we don't have to reinvent the wheel every season, and that's good. But I think there are some things about the theory that is just universally applicable that you can really leverage to separate yourself from other first teams. Maybe a part of that I think is really interesting is control theory, and a lot of teams don't really have the time to look at it. But even just understanding, the core concepts behind the decisions that you're making will separate you from other people. So to summarize it, I think like really don't just do things because you know that they're the right thing because other people have done them. If you can really like dig in and understand why this works and why other things don't work, you're going to set yourself up to have better ideas in the future and have, really leverage this experience more than you would if you just go with the flow.
Awesome. Wow. These are amazing answers, by the way.
I'm trying my best.
I guess kind of shifting off a little bit more back towards what you're doing is
Sure.
What is your ultimate goal with medical robotics? Like if you could have like your wildest dream about robotics.
Man, this is a tough one because I don't know that I know. If you had asked me 3 years ago if I'd be doing a PhD program, I probably would have said no. So my guess is probably as good as yours. But I will say that I really liked doing working at Intuitive. So if all goes the path that it's going, I think I'd see myself ending up there again. The advanced product development team that I worked with is really doing some great work at the forefront of what's new in medical robotics, and to have really great relationships with research environments. And even as an intern, I really felt like I was making a difference in the work that I was doing there. So I think that's probably where I'd end up. I think medical robotics has a lot to flesh out and a lot of different things that you can shift from. You can do work on like developing instruments for doing surgery. You can do work on developing ways for the surgeons to interact with the robot. You can work on different technology that's kind of invisible to everyone that's going on in the background of it. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's probably where I see myself. But you can't really do a PhD without at least entertaining the idea that you might want to teach at some point, or be a professor. So, that's something I can't answer right now. We'll find out when I get to TA some classes and see what I think about that. I think there's certainly some appeal to doing that. But yeah, that answers the question.
That's good. And obviously you don't have to have everything figured out right now.
No, I think I don't think you have to ever have everything figured out. And I think a lot of times I look back and I think, wow, things ended up going pretty nicely, just from having a little bit of an inkling of an idea of where I wanted to go. And certainly as a student, when I was looking at the people who had jobs that I liked, that I thought maybe I want to work with them, I maybe overestimated how confident they were in doing what they are doing. So, and that's some good advice, is that even the people that you look at that you think like, wow, they really got it. They really like had this plan and they did it, are probably kind of playing it by ear a lot of the way. And that's okay. You just gotta have enough of an idea that you can direct things as you go through. But no, it once you choose kind of the right general direction, you'll end up somewhere good, I think.
Yes. Let's see. You mentioned, I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I just blanked out for a second. You mentioned that you did some undergraduate research. What specifically did you do for that undergraduate research, or was it just kind of something that you did with a professor for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I started undergraduate research, I joined a lab that specialized in just general robotics. Is a weird thing to say that they specialize in, but the name of the lab was the Multiscale Robotics and Automation Lab, Professor David Capillari. And the work that I did there was on autonomous vehicles. And so I did some work with a autonomous vehicle that they would use to track power lines. And basically, instead of sending inspectors out to track the power line and look for problems routinely, you would be able to send out this robot, which is an interesting idea because it's evidently a really dangerous job, and a lot of people get hurt every year doing this. And it ends up being really slow and really tedious. And those of you in California and in Colorado, maybe wildfire season, will know that a lot of these power line problems can lead to pretty significant loss of life and loss of property, and most likely really bad outcomes. So being able to do this more quickly ended up being something that the power companies were interested in sponsoring some research. And so I worked for 2 years on that project, mostly doing computer vision work and stuff like that, some controls work. And the hardware unfortunately wasn't really a big part of that project, but that's sometimes what the projects are. But I got to learn a lot about robotic control and automation in that sense. And yeah, that was the majority of my research. I think really one of the valuable things about, I should say two valuable things actually. One valuable thing being that in undergraduate research, you really get to talk to a lot of grad students and get some mentorship, not only on your classes and stuff that they maybe are teaching or are have taken, but you can also kind of get a sense for what grad school is like. If you're feeling one way or the other about it, you can talk to them and learn a lot about grad school. And you also build a close relationship with a professor. So this is always really nice because you have someone to talk to about your work and your classes and stuff. But professors are really cool people. And I suggest any undergrads out there, when you go to your undergrad, to get to know as many professors as possible, because they usually have some cool stories to tell. And on the material side of things, they're really convenient when you need recommendation letters for grad school. So it's a good idea to have some good professor friends. So yeah, that was a really good experience for me in my undergrad, and got to kind of see what the academic world looked like before fully committing to academia. I think I sent, just in case some people don't know what Intuitive is all about, a video to be shown and maybe a photo of the Da Vinci system. So whenever that's good, just let me know. We can look at that. But cool. Yeah. So you guys might be familiar with the infamous "they did surgery on a great meme." But before that meme, there was this video that was an academic, or like somewhat of a serious concept. So we can just take a look at this. I think that video really made me really excited to work at Intuitive. I think that's about 10 years old now. But yeah, it's a really cool concept that they're doing there, which is that am I back?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. Okay, so you can see they're kind of like doing really big motions off in the distance, and they're doing really small, kind of tiny translations um, when it's on the grape, and that's you can see these really small knots being tied. And actually, one of the cool things that's not necessarily immediately obvious in the video is that by using a robot, you actually have 4 hands that you can use. So the surgeon has a camera and they can move the camera around, and then they have 2 of their tools that they can use, literally like this, which is pretty funny. But they can use the foot pedal to switch to another tool, so they can like kind of like grab something, put it somewhere, switch away, and bring another tool in and like cut on that. So they can operate as if they have 3 hands, which really ends up being kind of a neat experience for them if you ever get a chance to use it. And I think we have a picture to show, maybe flesh out what that looks like. Yeah, so what you're seeing here, so the robot on the right is the what we call the patient side console, and that is what's doing the surgery. And on the left, you can see the surgeons like completely attached in their own space, and they have this 3D view that they put their head into, and they have these controllers that let them do the surgery, almost like a video game, a little bit more serious usually than a video game. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting experience, and there's other ones. Let's see if I can share some others, but the technology is pretty crazy. But yeah, while I pull that up, I can move on to something else.
Wow, that's incredible, actually. I did see that they did surgery on a grape, and then saw that video before, so I thought that's always been really cool. I think you mentioned it earlier. So okay, awesome. I was just talking about I'd seen the surgery on a grape and the Da Vinci video before. So, and you mentioned it yourself that you really liked being able to feel like what you were doing had a difference, even as an intern. And so, how do you recommend, or like if you were to give advice to other first students on finding things that they felt like they were making a difference in, even after first?
Yeah, that's a tough question, and I think let's see. Well, I think there are a lot of ways as an engineer that you can make a difference, and there are so many projects in the world that have a lot of meaning and are able to give back. That it's really just a matter of like talking to people, I think, is the easiest way to do it. And when you're at a university, one of the greatest blessings you have is that there are so many people of like-minded experience, and if people have experienced more than you, that you can talk to about these things and really get a sense for the projects that are going on in the world. Internships are also a great way to do that, because you can kind of test the waters about a project and see what you think about it before you commit to a full-time job. Yeah, I think that's a really difficult one, because you really have to find, you just gotta put in the time to see what options there are out there. And I was lucky enough that Intuitive kind of fell into my lap with the robotics thing and being a sponsorship that's local to us. And but outside of that, there's my back again. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we got like different medical devices companies that are going on. We got automotive and transportation. Energy as being a big field that we can do a lot for climate change. And there's environmental energy, engineering challenges that are going on. And every like nook and cranny of robotics that you look in, or in engineering that you look in, there are problems that affect millions and billions of people every day that you can look to solve. So I think there's no shortage of problems. Maybe finding ones that really click with you and narrowing it down to that is maybe the hard part. But I think the cliche advice I can give is just, talk to as many people as possible, read as many articles as possible, just try to educate yourself on it. And I think, at least for me, once I found something that I thought was cool, it really it kind of clicked. I knew that was something that I enjoyed.
Awesome. Yeah, you're definitely right on there is no shortage of problems, but that's good advice to talk to people. Definitely. Have you had any connections through First alumni networks or anything like that have helped you? I mean, you mentioned the internship being a sponsor, and that's huge.
Yeah, I think in a couple of ways. One thing that was obviously really helpful was the alumni from my team I could talk to and see, what jobs did they end up getting. And that really helped me both in college and in high school to understand, what does it like mean to be an engineer? I could talk to them and find out what that's like. Other alumni, there was an active mentorship group at Purdue that I wasn't super involved in, but by talking to some of the. All right, am I cutting out? I can't.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Sorry, things keep on loading on my screen. Yeah, so being able to talk to some students there, it gives you like a ground to start on. We both came from the similar experience. We both did first in high school. We can now kind of talk about that, have a good basis to link up, connect that way. And then when opportunities arise, you talk to each other and fill each other in. So that ended up being really valuable to me.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's see. I guess completely off topic from our entire conversation. What are you most excited about for this first season that we've seen so far, I guess?
Yeah. I think honestly, the concept that teams are going to get to build off of last year's robot, I think is really kind of fun because, we're all used to start from scratch every year. And there's certainly parts of the robot that I think, don't necessarily deserve to start from scratch every year, and so it'll be kind of a unique challenge to see build off of this thing instead. So I think that'll be really fun. And I'm excited to see, hopefully my goal or my hope is to see teams have really finely tuned things going on. A lot of times we run out of time at the end of season before competition starts to really dial something in. I'm hoping that with the extra time, teams will have some really cool things that otherwise might not have worked. So I think we're in for a fun season as far as fun new ideas go. So I'm looking.
Naveed.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. I just want to say I'd like to thank Naveed again for speaking with us today and sharing those awesome links and videos. And all of your advice and experience is super helpful, especially for a fresh alumna like me. And of course, I want to thank again Newport News Shipbuilding for sponsoring the First Chesapeake Chats today as well. Yeah.
Great. It was great to talk to you, Emma. Thank you for having me again, and hopefully that was really helpful to some students or anyone online.